In 1953, in the southern expanses of European Russia, near a town called Orenburg, southeast of Moscow and east of the Caucasus Mountains, there was an expedition to extract some incredibly ancient and monstrous fossils. The fossilized remains that were unearthed belonged to a truly ancient creature, a carnivore with a large, 3-meter-long tetrapod body and with a disproportionately massive skull and jaws and cervical bones. These creatures are known to science. They are the erythrosuchids, more casually called the red crocodiles, and 250 million years ago, long before the dinosaurs came to rule the earth and long before the actual crocodiles came into existence, these erythrosuchids were the dominant land predators. A new study about these ancient carnivores has recently been published in the journal Royal Society Open Science, authored by scientists from the Museum and University of Birmingham and experts from Moscow, Buenos Aires, and Oxford. The subjects of their study were the fossilized remains of 7 individual erythrosuchids, all of them belonging to the species Gargania prima. Now, the reason this particular study is really cool is because of the quality of the bones. Specifically because among their fossils, they had a nearly complete skull. This skull was the source of most of their discoveries, as described in their paper. The bulk of their paper was spent describing the bone anatomy of the erythrosuchids, using the highly technical lexicon of paleontology. In the discussion section of their paper, they described the evolution of the disproportionately large head on these erythrosuchids, pointing to other related species that also existed around the same time with similar relative skull sizes. They described the placement that these creatures had in the evolution of dinosaurs. They say that the erythrosuchids give us insight into the eventual evolution of the early archosaurs, which would then diverge to give rise to the crocodiles and the dinosaurs. A scientist from the Birmingham Museum, Dr. David Grower, said, quote, "Gargania prima is now probably the best known erythrosuchid, and this will hopefully help to better understand the early history of the rise of the archosaurs during the Triassic." Unquote. In the paper, after describing how the large head size evolved simultaneously with the emergence of serrated teeth and a generally larger body size, the researchers conclude, quote, "The evolution of large heads in erythrosuchids and other early archosauriforms might therefore be linked to these groups invading hypercarnivorous niches following the Permo-Triassic mass extinction." Unquote. Now, this is really awesome, because what they're basically saying is that these erythrosuchids filled the ecological niche of a predator's predator. That's the role they took after the Permian extinction, when 90% of life was killed off. And over millions of years, as the global ecosystem slowly recovered and species diversified and radiated and filled in new niches, these erythrosuchids found their place eating other carnivores, which is probably what compelled them to evolve larger bodies, larger heads, and even deadlier teeth. Professor Richard Butler was the lead author of the study, and he said, quote, "These animals had an outlandishly large head, and we don't know for sure why this was the case. We think it might have been linked to their role as the top predators in a number of Triassic ecosystems. Having a big, powerful head and bite is likely to be useful in capturing prey." Unquote. It should also be mentioned that these Gargania erythrosuchids weren't even the largest of their kind. A species found in South Africa, Erythrosuchus africans, was up to 5 meters long, with a full meter of that being its giant head. Its jaws were lined with teeth the size of those found on a Tyrannosaurus rex. Even the smaller erythrosuchids still had giant, sharp teeth, which the researchers described as being similar to steak knives. Professor Butler also described the mysteries that still surround these ancient creatures. He said, quote, "These are bizarre animals, but much about their biology remains unstudied. They presumably must have had very powerful neck muscles to support such a massive head, but detailed studies of their muscles have not yet been done." Unquote. So there you go. Massive hyper-carnivore monsters with giant teeth that were the dominant land-based predator in the eons before the dinosaurs. In fact, the erythrosuchids died out completely before the first dinosaurs ever walked the earth. All that remains of them are their bones and the mysteries that they still hold.